It had been 5 long years since Naomi received the earth-shattering news of her cancer diagnosis. Over the course of these years, she had bravely faced the challenges brought forth by her illness and undergone multiple types of treatments in search of a cure, or at the very least some relief from her symptoms. From traditional chemotherapy and radiation to experimental clinical trials, she felt no stone was left unturned in her battle against the disease. Naomi's resilience and unwavering determination to live her life to the fullest, despite the pain and uncertainty, became a beacon of hope for her friends and family, as well as an inspiration for countless others facing similar battles. For the past 6 years, Naomi had been married to Tom, and together they had built a life that was both fulfilling and challenging. They didn't have any children, which often became a point of contention between them. The strain of dealing with Naomi's illness had only heightened attention surrounding the sensitive topic as they grappled with the implications of her diagnosis and the future they envisioned for themselves. Despite these disagreements, they found solace in their shared love and commitment to one another, leaning on each other for support and understanding as they navigated the complexities of their relationship and the uncertainties that lay ahead. As Naomi's disease progressed, it took an immense toll on her physical well-being, eventually rendering her bedridden with her mobility and independence compromised. Tom stepped up to the challenge, taking on the role of caregiver. With unwavering dedication, he managed all the household chores, from doing laundry and cooking to cleaning, ensuring that Naomi's needs were met and that she remained as comfortable as possible during this difficult time. Naomi's friend Lisa was a constant presence in their lives, visiting often during the day to offer her support and assistance. She would help with the chores around the house, allowing Tom to focus on his job and spend time with Naomi when he returned home. As the days went by, however, the dynamic between Naomi and Tom shifted. When Tom would come home from work, he would briefly check on Naomi, bringing her food and tending to her most pressing needs, such as changing her and removing the full toilet. Gradually, their conversations dwindled, and they found themselves slipping into silence. Their once close connection, now strained by the weight of Naomi's illness and the challenges they faced as a couple, the doctor provided a grim prognosis for Naomi, indicating that she didn't have much time left to live. This harsh reality cast a shadow over her and Tom's life, making every day a struggle to find hope and strength. Naomi had been bedridden for the past 2 years. Her condition was steadily worsening despite the myriad of treatments she had undergone. As the days turned into months, the couple faced an ever-looming deadline, knowing that their time together was limited. One day, Lisa brought Naomi a tablet as a thoughtful gift. She patiently taught her how to use it and connected it to the internet. For Naomi, the tablet became a portal to a vast new world that she had not been able to explore due to her illness. With the tap of a screen, she could connect with her relatives living far away, bridging the distance and allowing her to maintain relationships she had thought were lost at times. Naomi couldn't shake the feeling that someone else was present in the house during the day and in the evenings when Tom was home. She sensed that her husband was talking to someone, though she couldn't quite put her finger on it. Driven by curiosity and unrelenting suspicion, she began to listen more closely, straining her ears to catch snippets of conversation that seemed to be just beyond her reach. One day, as she listened carefully, Naomi's heart sank as she realized that Tom was indeed talking to a woman. Whispers and muffled laughter coming from the other room conferred the worst fears. Tom had become involved with someone else. The revelation shook her to the core, leaving her feeling betrayed and heartbroken. As she lay in bed struggling with the implications of her discovery, she wondered what this meant for her marriage and her future. The one solid foundation of trust and love between her and Tom began to crumble beneath the weight of this devastating secret. Naomi's heart ached as she overheard Tom and the woman arguing one day. The woman insisted that Tom reveal their relationship to his wife, while Tom pleaded with her for more time. He hoped that Naomi didn't have much longer to live, and he wanted to avoid causing her any more pain during her final days. Hearing this exchange left Naomi feeling an indescribable mix of emotions, hurt, anger, and disbelief, that the man she had loved and trusted for so long was not only involved with someone else, but was also waiting for her own demise to resolve the situation. As she lay in bed grappling with this crushing revelation, she knew she had to make a decision about how to confront Tom and what it meant for their future together. Naomi's world seemed to collapse around her, and she felt herself withdrawing into a shell, unable to cope with the emotional turmoil that had gripped her life. Her will to live, which had once burned brightly even in the face of her illness, now flickered weakly, threatening to be extinguished at any moment. The weight of her husband's betrayal, combined with her physical pain, pushed her into a deep depression. As the days went by, Naomi's condition worsened. She felt her strength and energy fading, her body succumbing to the disease that had plagued her for so long. With the added burden of her emotional pain, she found it increasingly difficult to fight back and regained her will to live. Her world grew darker with each passing day, and she wondered if there was any hope left for her to cling to taking a break from social media. Naomi disconnected from the virtual world for some time, seeking solace in her solitude. When she finally decided to return to her online presence, she was surprised to find a flood of new messages and friend requests waiting for her. Among these notifications, one in particular caught her eye, a mysterious friend request from a person with no profile picture simply named John W. Curiosity piqued. So, she opened the message and realized that it was her old friend from high school, Jonathan Williams. Memories of their shared past and the bond they once had came flooding back. It had been years since they last spoke, and the unexpected reconnection brought a sense of nostalgia and warmth to Naomi's heart. As Naomi reminisced about her high school days, she felt a sudden flutter in her heart. When she remembered that she and Jonathan had been quite the sweet couple back then. They had shared a deep connection in countless happy memories during their time together, but their youthful romance had come to an abrupt end when Tom entered the picture, ultimately breaking them apart. The realization that it had been Tom Hood who had disrupted their relationship with Jonathan all those years ago brought a whirlwind of emotions back in her high school days. Tom had been persistent and cunning. In his pursuit of Naomi, he showered her with attention and gifts. Even though she had made it clear that she was already in a relationship with Jonathan, Naomi wasn't particularly fond of Tom's advances, but he kept pushing, refusing to back down. On graduation day, Tom seized the opportunity to drive a wedge between Naomi and Jonathan. He approached Jonathan, telling him that he and Naomi were planning to get married right after graduation. Having seen Tom and Naomi together in the homes a few times, Jonathan was led to believe that this might be true. The sense of betrayal overwhelmed him, and he didn't even attempt to speak to Naomi about the situation. Feeling hurt and deceived, Jonathan made the decision to leave his hometown and put the past behind him. In the aftermath of Tom's deception about Jonathan's departure, Naomi had tried her best to find them and clear up the misunderstanding. However, her efforts were hindered by her limited resources and the emotional turmoil she was going through. She felt deeply hurt that Jonathan hadn't attempted to hear her side of the story before making the decision to leave. As time went on, the memory of their relationship and the pain of their unresolved issues began to fade, and Naomi eventually moved on with her life. But now, with Jonathan's unexpected reappearance in her life through social media, these old feelings of hurt and regret have resurfaced. Naomi felt a strong desire to reach out to him to finally share her side of the story and perhaps find closure or even rekindle the bond they once had. Naomi had eventually given in to Tom's relentless attention and courtship. She was swept up in the romance of his gestures. And over time, she convinced herself that perhaps he was the one she was meant to be with. She agreed to marry Tom, believing that she could find happiness in their union. However, as the years went by and the challenges of her illness and Tom's infidelity came to light, Naomi found herself regretting her decision. She couldn't help but feel that her life might have taken a different, happier path had she stayed with Jonathan instead of being swayed by Tom's advances. So there she was, after all these years, staring at a message from Jonathan. In his heartfelt note, he admitted that despite the many years that had passed, he had never been able to forget Naomi. He shared that he had married someone else but ended up getting divorced because they simply couldn't connect on a deeper level. As the years went by and he grew older, the thoughts of Naomi became more frequent, occupying a significant place in his heart and mind. Reading his words, Naomi felt a rush of emotions, a mix of joy, sadness, and longing. She realized that Jonathan had never truly let her go, just as she had never been able to forget him. As Naomi read Jonathan's message, she found herself overwhelmed with emotion. Tears streamed down her face as she remembered the sweet days and tender feelings they had once shared. In the midst of her tears, she felt a newfound appreciation for life and a stirring of hope within her heart. The thought of being loved again, even in her current situation, brought her an unexpected sense of comfort and joy. It was as if a weight had been lifted from her shoulders, and she could see a glimmer of light at the end of the tunnel. That evening, as the emoji settled and her resolve strengthened, Naomi finally mustered the courage to reply to Jonathan's message. She decided that honesty was the best approach and poured her heart out, sharing the story of her life's journey since they had last seen each other. She told him about her illness, how she had ended up bedridden, and her reliance on Tom, her husband, with a heavy heart. She also confided in Jonathan about her suspicions of Tom's fidelity. Naomi felt a sense of vulnerability as she opened up to him, but at the same time she experienced a sense of relief knowing that she was sharing her story with someone who had once been so close to her and who still cared deeply for her, and she hit send button. She held her breath anxiously, awaiting Jonathan's response. Jonathan didn't respond to Naomi's message with words, but instead he took action. The very next day, he drove up to her house, carefully helping her into his car and taking her to his home. It was evident that he genuinely cared for her and wanted to be there for her in her time of need. Jonathan made it his mission to provide Naomi with love and support. She desperately needed him. He took her out whenever she felt well enough, showered her with flowers, and never missed a chance to tell her how much he still loved her. Naomi could see the happiness and sincerity in his shining eyes, and she felt the depths of his need for her in his loving gestures. Feeling the love and care from Jonathan, Naomi found herself praying to God, asking for the strength to overcome her illness and get back on her feet, as if in answer to her prayers and genuine wishes. Naomi gradually began to feel better, and her strengths returned to everyone's amazement. She was able to get back on her feet, witnessing this incredible turn of events. Jonathan was overcome with joy, and years of happiness streamed down his face. Naomi found it hard to believe that she was given a chance at happiness again, especially after all she had been through. The fact that her disease had seemingly retreated was nothing short of miraculous. Even her doctors were baffled by her recovery, unable to provide any concrete explanation for her sudden improvement. They could only shrug their shoulders and suggest that a miracle had taken place, though they were hesitant to truly believe in such a possibility. One evening, as Naomi sat in the living room and read a book, Jonathan approached her with a warm smile and said, "Honey, I want to take you somewhere." Naomi's eyes lit up with excitement and curiosity. It had been a long time since she had the opportunity to enjoy an outing, and she eagerly anticipated where Jonathan might have planned to take her. As Jonathan drove them out of town and towards the hills, Naomi's heart began to beat faster with anticipation. She knew that there was something special waiting for her, something that Jonathan had carefully planned as they reached the top of the hill and approached a small cliff on the other side. Jonathan took Naomi's hand and led her there. Her memories flooded back as she recalled the sweet times they had shared stargazing on the hills during their high school days. She could hardly contain her excitement as they sat down at the exact same spot they had once sat, dangling their feet down over the edge, with the stars twinkling above them and the gentle breeze blowing through their hair. Naomi felt like she was experiencing a dream come true as they sat there, basking in each other's company. She realized that all the pain and suffering she had gone through had led her to this beautiful moment as they sat there. Naomi felt Jonathan's arms wrapped tightly around her, holding her close as he whispered, "I'm sorry I left you without finding out what really happened. I thought you had betrayed me, and I was so wrong to think that." Tears in her eyes, she replied, "But you lifted me up when I was at my lowest. I'm so grateful to you for that." Jonathan smiled down at her, his eyes filled with warmth and tenderness. "I will always be here for you, Naomi. No matter what happens, I will always love you and support you. You are my forever love, and I will never let you go." As Naomi leaned in to see the bottom of the hill, she suddenly felt scared of the height. She quickly retreated, afraid of the potential danger it posed. But then, as she leaned in again, she noticed a pebble lying on the shelf-like rock just beneath them. It was the same pebble they had brought and left there years ago, but the message inscribed on it was "Jonathan and Naomi love forever." They were destined to be together, and the universe had brought them back to this very spot, at this very moment, to rekindle their love and seal it with a symbol of their commitment. Naomi felt a sense of wonder and awe at the power of true love as she and Jonathan gazed out at the stars. She knew deep in her heart that their love had played a pivotal role in her healing. It was as if the strength of their bond had given her the courage and resilience to fight her illness and come out on the other side. The next tests confirmed what Naomi had suspected: she no longer had the disease. Her doctors were amazed and couldn't explain her sudden recovery, but for Naomi and Jonathan, the answer was clear: it was their love that had created this miracle. A year after her miraculous recovery, Naomi felt blessed beyond measure as she held her newborn baby girl in her arms. She and Jonathan had been overjoyed to learn that they were expecting a child and that the pregnancy had gone smoothly and without complications. As Naomi looked down at her precious bundle of joy, she felt a sense of awe and wonder at the beauty of life. She knew that her journey had been difficult and that Tom was a challenge, but she also knew that every moment of pain and struggle had been worth it, to bring her to this moment of pure joy and happiness, with tears of gratitude streaming down her face. Naomi thanked God for the gift of her daughter and for the love that had brought her into this world. And so Naomi lived her life with a sense of purpose and fulfillment, surrounded by the love of her family and joy going for newfound health. She knew that nothing was impossible with love by her side, and she would always cherish the memories of the love story that had brought her to this beautiful moment in time.